This podcast is a proud member of the Unidentified Network.
On the Track is a web TV show about cryptozoology, natural history, green issues and whatever else the team feel like making up as they go along. Enjoy!
So what's in today's show, Mr. John?
Well, Hennis, following on from last week's episode, Dave Scott, head of CFZ Canada, meets up again with Robyn Moonshadow, a Canadian Sasquatch expert, and they talk about Bigfoot hunting. Enjoy.
I really like the old credits.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name's John Downs, and I'm the director of the Centre for Fortean Zoology. And this week hang on, what's that happening over there? It seems that we are being transported somehow to the north.
So, Amos, we all know the North's better, don't we? The North's better than the South. Aye, happen as it bloody well is. Aye, it is. And there are many and varied reasons for this, aren't there? And you're going to talk about one of them today, aren't you? Aye, I certainly bloody well am. Listen, up the North, we don't have the woke. We don't have it. We just won't stand for it. Tiny little minorities telling you what you can say, what you can think, what you can bloody well do. What are you down south? Men or bloody mice? No! You can stick bloody wokeness straight up your ass. We've got freedom of speech in the north.
Thank you very much, Amos, for that spirited point of view, and thank you very much to Hennis's friend William the Duck, who came along just in time to help us comply with YouTube's terms of service.
And now it's on with the show.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name's John Downs. I'm the director of the Centre for Fortean Zoology, and welcome to another episode of On the Track. For those of you who don't know, every Saturday afternoon at 3, like now, and every Wednesday evening at 6:30 we bring you a miscellany, a mishmash, a montage and a melange, and probably other things beginning with M as well, of hard science, weird shit and surreality. What's surreality, you ask? Well, we've already had Archie butting in, and we've also had William the Duck butt in. I think we'll probably ask Archibald.
I know all about surreality, like. It's a very interesting artistic movement featuring little dogs who show how clever they are.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, it's time to get on with the show. Lilith and I are very pleased and happy to be able to present another instalment of Dave Scott from CFZ Canada's conversation with Canadian BigFoot expert Robyn
Moonshadow. So I knew exactly what I was looking at, but I actually never thought that I would see a Bigfoot. Like,
yeah,
never wanted to. because the P&G film, I'd seen that a million times. So, and heard all the stories that from up here and from all other indigenous people. And because I knew exactly what it was, but I didn't think I'd ever see one. And I was just a kid. So I'm staring and he's staring back at me, and no harm to me at all. He's just looking at me. I'm looking at him, and we know how kids are with Bigfoot. So they Bigfoot takes an interest.
Mm-hmm.
Likes to watch kids play, and he's just looking at me, and I got a good look at him, like his face, and he was really the male version of Patty. His ears, and he had the flat nose and the eyes that were so dark brown they were almost black, and he was built like a barrel, and he was just watching me. But I remember his teeth, actually, of all things to remember his teeth. He wasn't growling or gaping. He just kind of aloof, really.
Yeah.
And I remember his front teeth, which I could see, the couple of front teeth here, reminded me of cow's teeth. That they were flat. And I always remember that because I thought, that is just neat. They're like cow's teeth. It just wasn't till after. And it was just for a couple of minutes, although it seemed longer. And I remember that I got scared because I could hear my heartbeat in my ears. Dum, 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 dum. And so much for my new socks. I ripped my sock right out of the fence. And I don't think I ever ran so fast in my life. It wasn't far from my parents' house. And it was kind of downhill. And I cleared a 5-foot fence. Just boink. And I got into the front yard, and I stopped, and I'm panting and everything. And I go into the house all calm. I'm not going to say anything. I'm scared, still scared, terrified. And I didn't say anything to my mother. I didn't say anything. She was watching a soap opera because around 5 o'clock. I don't remember what soap opera it was. But I just, went on into my room. I'm back and just went over a million times in my head. And it was funny because I think that I just overreacted to the whole thing. And I barely got any sleep that night. My bedroom is on the ground floor, and there's 4 windows in my room. The dogs start barking. Sasquatch is coming to get me. So I get cardboard and I put it over the window so he can't look in. And it was like that for like a week. Every time the dogs barked, he was coming to get me. He didn't, of course. Yeah. And then when you start settling down from this, you realize he didn't do anything to me. He's not after me. And I was just scared and overreacted. And then I finally tell my mother, and right outright, I said, I saw Bigfoot. And quite a while had passed. And she said, really? Where was that? I was like up on my cousin's property, just over it. At the crossroad there. You're going to have to show me. I didn't want to go back in the woods because it was just like 2 weeks before I went back in the woods. I don't want to go back in the woods. I said, I don't want to go back in the woods. So she called my sister down, and Penny thought this was cool, but she had to go to work. So my mom and I just march up the road and go in, and I'm still really nervous about it at this time. And I said, I saw him right there in front of the tree. Of course, it'd been a while, time had passed, and there was no tracks or anything. What did he look like? And my mother was interested. She was always interested in these things. So were all of my siblings. But she was nervous, and she says, well, I guess you better not go back in the woods for a while. So, but I did. I eventually went back into the woods, and then I started looking for them again. And then my mother told me this story about when my uncle was younger, and because the cow farm had been in the family for a few generations. When he was younger, so this would be in like 1920s or 1930s, it was coming dark, and he had to go to what we called the 4 acres. So it would be where 4 acres joined for the different road. So he went back to get the cows coming dark, and he had to gather them all up and bring them up to the barn. And he come back about an hour later white as a sheet, scared to death, and he would not go back out. And it took them like 20 minutes to find out what happened. But apparently he had seen a Bigfoot, not too far away from where I saw one, just walking around where the cows were. And he wouldn't go back there by himself ever again. Of course, when they went back to get the cows, the Bigfoot was gone, but he wouldn't go back that far back to get the cows again by himself in the dark. I was like, well, and then we get talking to the people who lived on the mountain about it, and they'd saw one a few times over the years too, just walking across the road, because there's maybe 10 people live down on that mountain.
Mm-hmm.
So I know they seemed happy to talk about it, like they all knew that there was one that was walking
Because
around.
they've all seen it.
Yep.
Chance. Excuse me. Thank you.
Yeah. And another time, we were talking about this earlier, is when we were over in New York State, and we would hear a loon go off, and this was during the night, and my research partner never heard a loon because they don't have loons in his area. He's like, what's that? And I said, it's a loon. And it can be quite stirring or haunting if you've never heard a loon.
Mm-hmm. I love loons.
Oh, yeah, because they're cool.
Mm-hmm.
Big black duck with the red eyes. They're very, very pretty. And they're a good sized duck.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, what's that? I said, that's a duck, or that's a loon. And then we'd hear a Bigfoot start whooping. And I'm like, and that's a Bigfoot. And so the next day we go to the area called Bug Lake. We were hearing these calls. And of course, there's a couple of loons floating around. And I do a couple of whoops and hollers. And from across from where we were, it's like a U shape. And we hear this just huge noise and an awful lot of ruckus. And it sounded like a freight train running towards us. And it didn't take but a few minutes to get to the general area where we were. And when it got close enough, it just stopped. And we're standing there waiting for anything to come out. And there was nothing. Nothing. You could hear a pin drop. And the loons, they were just gone. And there was just nothing. Like, we did wait, but there was nothing. I'm like, it got close enough to see that we weren't another Bigfoot. And it just lost interest. And of course, I had the GoPro running, but the sound on the GoPro was just terrible.
Yeah.
So, and it's hard to pick up anything on a GoPro. Like, I have microphones for my GoPro now, but it's still not 100% because you do miss sounds and things. But yeah, it was just nothing. And when we're walking back, we weren't followed or anything, but it was just interesting. Like, I'll whoop and holler sometimes. I don't always, well, if I'm by myself, I don't do it, but I don't want to aggravate them. Like I say, it's better to observe than disturb. We were talking earlier about other animals as well. About, I guess it'd be about 25 years ago, I went to BC squatching. I was like 21 years old. This was a big trip for me. And the gentleman that I went with, everything was set up. I don't mention his name, but everything was set up. And we got in there, and he was talking to the ranger, and I'm not paying much attention to it because I want to get going. And we got, and this was in Vancouver. And and he was just terrible. Every sound was a Bigfoot. I'm like, no, that's a wolf, or that's a coyote, and that's a tree squeaking, but everything was Bigfoot. Didn't matter what it was. It could have been a bird tweeting. It was a Bigfoot. I'm like, oh, this guy. And whatever, you just do whatever you want, and I'll do my own thing. So it went on like this, like for a week. And like I said, nice guy, but he's supposed to know what he was doing, and he didn't. And so on our way out, backpacks and all, because we're leaving, we round a corner, and here is a mother bear and her cubs. I know some people have heard me talk about this before. There were like 2 or 3 cubs. And when you meet a bear, I think it was only a black bear. I say that, thank goodness, because it wasn't a grizzly, or I wouldn't be here, I don't think. You tell the bear you're there. Hey, bear, don't scare the bear. And she's got cubs. Don't mess with the mama bear and her cubs. None of that happened. I stopped, and as I'm going to holler at the bear, so she's not scared, go. He runs. He ran. That's the worst thing you could do is run. And who does she run at? Me.
Yeah.
So up here, we're taught from the cradle what to do with certain animals. Whether it be, cougar, mountain lions, bears, whatever, you do certain things. So I dropped to the ground. And I play dead, just, it removes the threat from her. And I keep my face down best I can. So she rolls me, and I can have that momentum where my face is down. And I'm staying as perfectly calm as I can. This goes on for a few minutes. And she actually put her claws into my canvas backpack and picked me off the ground and dropped me. That was very scary. And I'm still calm. I'm thinking, I'm a calm person. Don't overreact. Don't do any of this. Don't do any of that. Just going over in my head with everything I know about bears. Okay, and then I've got my face down. I hear her walk away. I'm still waiting, because this is how bears are, because sometimes they'll come back. And then I hear her come back. She throws dirt at me with a just to check. I'm still face down, still quiet. And it was a while before I got up. I know it seems longer, but it was probably 5-10 minutes. But I can hear her going. And when I'm sure it's safe, I get up. I actually still have the backpack. So I have it put up. and if I can find it within a reasonable amount of time, I can show everybody. But I get up, and I'm very slow about getting up. Okay, she's gone for sure, or at a distance. So I'm going to find this guy, and he's in a tree which she could have climbed. And he's just scared. He's just scared out of his mind. You never run from a bear. It activates their fight or flight response. You become prey. You run, you're prey, you're done. So yeah, she could have climbed that tree. And the bear is gone. You can come down. Now I'm mad. I'm no longer scared. I'm thinking I'm mad. Because if I report that I was attacked by a bear, they're going to come and shoot her.
Yep.
Because babies or not, they're going to shoot her. And this was his fault. A couple of hollers, it would have been done. And there wouldn't have been an incident. I didn't report it. So he comes, you sure? Yeah, I'm sure. Look at my bag, I'm sure. So he comes down into the tree, and I'm mad. Because I could have been killed because he was stupid. Or she's going to get shot if I report it. He comes down out of the tree, and I'm very calm. I'm actually livid, but I was very calm. And I punched him right in the eye. Boom, right in the eye. And I just marched. And if I was going to leave him behind, I'm going to leave him behind. And he, like this. I didn't care. It was just the whole thing was stupid. And he drove me nuts at that point. And I don't have a temper, really. But I just kept thinking more of the bear than myself. They'll shoot her if I report it. Because, she would attack me even if it was his fault. I said, I'm going home, and I don't never want to hear from you again. And as far as I know, that was the end of any kind of Bigfoot research.
If you want to support us and help us make more content like these, please press like, subscribe, follow our Facebook page, and check out our Patreon.
And there's the ghost of Joe Strummer, who's an ever more regular visitor to my little house, will tell you. Don't forget to ring the notification bell, otherwise you won't be told when the next episode's gonna be.
And that would be an awful pity, wouldn't it?
If you've been affected by any of the topics in today's episode, you can just bugger off, because we don't give a monkeys. Bloody well get a grip. Sort your own bloody problems out rather than ringing up somewhere.
And so, ladies and gentlemen, here we are at the end of another episode. I hope that you enjoyed it. I want to say a big thank you to the people but for whom this show would not have been made, this episode of this show would not have been made. First of all, my producer Louis, who, despite the fact he is the butt of an awful lot of my jokes, is a remarkable young man and does an awful lot for me. I also want to say a big thank you to Graham Inglis, who's not just the Deputy Director of the Centre for Fortean Zoology, but he is also my carer. As many of you probably know, I am disabled and I need somebody to be able to help me live some semblance of a normal life. Not that anything about my life is even slightly normal. I want to say a big thank you to Gwyn Palmer, the Assistant Director of the CFZ, who's an absolute poppet and has been doing an awful lot of things for me over the last year and a half, and is dragging the Centre for Fortean Zoology, kicking and screaming, into the second decade of the 21st century. And I want to say thank you to my guests this week, who were Robyn Moonshadow and David Scott. They'll be back again next week with the final part of their discussion about Bigfoot hunting in Canada. Now, I want to send all my love and healing vibes to Miss Maxine, who is very ill at the moment, and I'd like you all, please, to do likewise. Send her as much peace and love as you can. And Maxine, my dear, just to make things more, here's a song for you.
I never sailed on the Titanic, I never watched her just before. I saw them both on television sometimes, 'cause I know after all, time doesn't go the way we think. I swear that on my life, you have always been the great love of my life. I've been places that I shouldn't be. You may have been one of those, but I know you always supported me, because that's the way it goes. We've lived together, we've lived apart, in a world consumed by strife. And you have always been the great love of my life. I like to roll in a different place, where I can't walk like I've been. It seems the words are differently, or somewhere in between. I go there more than I admit, especially if alone at night. 'Cause you have always been the great love of my life. I'm feeling eschatological, baby. The writing's on the wall. And I'm not even frightened, baby, 'cause I know after all, some things last forever. We're like a cosmic man and wife. And you have always been the great love of my life. You have always been the great love of my life.
Well, I'm going to be back on Saturday. What are we going to be talking about on Saturday? Well, as I just told you, it's going to be the final part of my interview with, but not my interview, it's going to be the final part of the conversation between Dave Scott from CFZ Canada and Robyn Moonshadow about Bigfoot. So, Are you listening, Mr. McCrinnan?
Yes.
Goodness me, he's actually here. This is Mr. McCrinnan.
Hello.
How are you today, Mr. McCrinnan?
Oh, the better for hanging out with you, Mr. Downs.
Well, you've been watching the show, I believe.
Well, always.
So, as you're watching the show, and will you be watching the show next week?
Well, yes, of course.
So, if I'm here presenting the show and doing the, what's it called, the live chats and all the other boggly bits I do, and you're there watching it,
Yeah.
I'll be seeing you. You silly bugger.
I'll be shouting, hello, Mrs. B. I don't know what I want, but I want it now.
Bingo. Okay, that's how we end